I put for you now this interview in English. Very important interview that every one of you has to listen to this interview, because I agree 100% what the professor he said already. First, salute to our leader in the great Israel, the Israeli people and the army, IDF, who they sacrifice everything to save the Lebanese people, the Iranian people, the Syrian people, the Yemen people, the Iraqi people, from all the terrorist gangster bandits in Syria, Assad family, in Lebanon, Hezbollah, in Yemen, Al-Houthi, in Iran, the Ayatollah and the artificial army revolutionnaire, and in Iraq too. So let to listen. We say thank you, Israel. Each one of us has to say thank you, Israel, and listen to this great interview. I agree 100% what he said, the professor. Thank you.
Donald Trump built up the spirit of Hamas, of Hezbollah, of the Iranians, of the Houthis, and of the radical public opinion that we have in the Arab states. Hamas will not disarm. This has never been a realistic possibility. Hezbollah will not disarm. This has never been a realistic, with or without the United States. This is not an option. The whole idea of Middle East peace, now we've achieved something that for 3,000 years we could not be achieved. This was ridiculous to begin with. Obama set quite a high bar for bad deals, and I think Trump now surpassed it. Had we listened to the United States, not only had we listened to Europe, Saddam Hussein would have had a nuclear weapon.
What is Israel's capability looking forward to an Iran that will undoubtedly, as soon as it can, strike Israel again because it's basically been given free pass?
Israel is today the only country in Western civilization whose people are willing to fight when crucial, vital interests are at stake.
Trump has a real sense of who is a loser and who is a winner.
I hope he will realize how bad this capitulation is. The one hope I have is his ego.
I'm Jonathan Sacerdoti. Dr. Dan Shiftan, thanks for joining me at what is really a critical moment. We've just heard that Trump has made this deal with Iran. Everything is over. He's claiming it as a great victory. They're claiming it as a great victory. Have we just learned a lesson from Donald Trump in the art of the bad deal?
He taught us something about kicking the bucket. I mean, he was sitting there milking and the product was very, very good. And then he kicked the bucket so all the milk spilled into the other product of the same cow. So I think we're in trouble, not only as Israelis. I think the Western civilization is in trouble, because what we've proven now, what Donald Trump proved now, is that nobody in the Western world is willing to fight. It's not only the Europeans that are not willing to fight. He recognizes that the American people are not willing to fight for something that is absolutely crucial. Because if the barbarians, not just in Iran, in Lebanon, and in Gaza, but barbarians all over the world, this has implications to North Korea, to Taiwan, to what may happen in Gibraltar, in the Malacca Straits, in the Panama Canal, and so on. If we, primarily the Americans-led free world, cannot defend its very basic interest, if we need to get the permission of countries like Iran in order to use international waterways, then we are in very deep trouble. In addition to it, he also betrayed the Iranian people. Help is not on the way. I mean, he abandoned the Iranian people because he strengthened this regime, and he not only recognized this regime as controlling Iran, he recognized this regime as controlling the proxies, the Iranian proxies I mean, Hezbollah, Houthis, the Hamas, and others in the Middle East. So he did all the wrong things that you can imagine. Now, we all knew that not only can he not compose a sentence, a coherent sentence, but certainly cannot come up with a coherent strategy. But he had very good instincts. In his first term, these instincts brought about the Abraham Accord. In his second time in the White House, he supported Israel and engaged directly as the United States in very important actions that could have changed, to some extent changed, but then it was reversed, could have changed again the very bad realities that Barack Obama produced. So we can now speak of Barack Hussein Trump. We can now speak about somebody who managed to come up with a situation that is even worse than Obama. That's quite an achievement, because it's the Obama set quite a high bar for bad deals, and I think Trump now surpassed it. It's not lost. I mean, maybe when he realizes that everybody in the world realizes that he capitulated for his 80th birthday, maybe he will still do the right thing on some issues. But the damage is very considerable. Israel will survive it. A lot of the achievements that Israel achieved in the last 2.5 years will stay there, but they were reduced. If our situation improved by 90%, now we should speak about 70%. It is still an achievement, but not as much as we could have had Trump stuck to what he started to do.
So just to lay out the, let's say, worst case scenario about this capitulation, we've effectively got what you've described there, I would say, as a sort of sheer NATO. He's now acknowledged that the Iranians and their proxies are sort of able to behave as if an attack on one is an attack on all. So he's now set in stone, effectively, the idea that if Israel reacts in Lebanon to Hezbollah fire, this is a problem, and Iran has called the shots on that. He's effectively consolidated that ring of proxies by not allowing Israel to finally defeat Hamas in Gaza, by not continuing until Iran, the Islamic Republic regime, is completely destroyed or weakened enough. He's even, it seems, allowed that there will be some form of uranium enrichment, though to what he says is a low level. We're talking about kicking the can down the road in terms of removing the remaining nuclear dust, as he calls it. He's included Lebanon in the deal. He hasn't said anything about whether Israel is allowed to keep its troops in Lebanon, in Syria. So all of these things actually are pretty bad from the Israeli perspective. And yet he is the president who's allowed Israel to do as much as it possibly could so far. So as you say, Israel has consolidated some gains, but it's left in an extremely precarious position with the world, let's say, not allowing it to react in future. How will Israel manage to react if there is a president in the US who is actually against allowing it to do that, and an international opinion will not be supportive?
Look, international opinion is not very important as long as you get the support of the United States, but he removed it, at least temporarily. In Lebanon, the situation is even worse than what you described, because it's not only Israel is not allowed vis-a-vis Iran. I mean, from an Israeli point of view, if the Iranians don't allow it, we do it anyway, and then we take the consequences from Iran and hit back in Iran. But what at the moment is the situation? I don't believe that it will remain in this position, but at the moment, if Israel responds in Lebanon, we have a major problem with the United States, with the president of the United States. This is even deeper a problem, even more severe a problem from an Israeli point of view. I don't believe that this will remain, because Israel cannot afford a situation, and even tension, and serious tension, with the only friend Israel has today on the international arena, it will not stop Israel from doing what is vital for the existence of Israel. If Israel is perceived in its neighborhood as a country that is paralyzed because the United States doesn't let it action, this has catastrophic results, and Israel would even risk a confrontation with the United States in order not to allow this to happen. This is the worst that can happen from an Israeli point of view, and I think that Trump will not go far enough in this regard, so that Israel will lose its deterrence with the radical forces in the Middle East. Israel will retain a lot of its achievements because I think it doesn't have a choice, and it will continue the policies that we've adopted after October 7th, namely that we will not contain major challenges to Israel's security, but we will be preemptive. We will prevent these forces from getting strong enough in order to undermine Israel. The challenge now is more serious, therefore the Israeli actions will have to be more serious, and I don't believe that Trump will go as far as trying to break Israel. I also think that it would be another very, very, very major mistake from an American point of view if it tries to break Israel, because the United States needs to leave the Middle East. The American aircraft carriers should be in the China Sea, not in the Iranian or the Persian Gulf. Israel should be in a position where it can substitute the United States. You see, when the United States leaves the Middle East, you can't leave the Middle East alone. When you leave the Middle East alone, it has the tendency to make house calls in your capital cities. Now, there is only one power in the Middle East that can contain the radicals. We have seen in this war that Saudi Arabia is perhaps a financial power, but not a real power in any sense of the term. That Egypt is incapable of defending itself even when the Houthis destroyed the Egyptian economy and pushed Egypt more in the direction of hunger. The Iranian power is a negative from a Western point of view, from a Western civilization point of view. So it's not a question of they can defend the United States interest or the Western interest. They are a challenge to the Western interest. Turkey is not a real Middle Eastern power in that sense of the term. It is partly in Europe, it's part of NATO. It cannot act in this region freely. So the only real power in this region that is committed to fighting the radicals and will fight the radicals is Israel. And Israel, in relative terms, is much stronger than before because the vulnerability of Iran was exposed. And the vulnerability remains in spite of the major mistakes that Donald Trump committed now. So I don't think that the United States will try, and if it tries, I don't think it will succeed to break Israel. I don't think it will go all the way trying to break Israel. So Israel, under any government, I think will insist on maintaining its deterrence. Israel exists thanks to its deterrence. Peace is a product of deterrence. The only reason the whole Middle East doesn't go into a regional war is that Arabs are aware not only of the Israeli strengths, but also of the Israeli ability and willingness to use this strength. In the Middle East, I think I've used this also when we spoke last time. If somebody is not afraid of you, you should be afraid of them. This is a very violent and unstable region. And the only country in this region that can successfully fight radicals, that already defeated radicals in previous wars, that weakened dramatically the radicals in Gaza and the radicals in Lebanon in this war, I think the United States will have to recognize it and will not try to break the position of Israel.
seems unlikely, but maybe this is, if you remember when Gwyneth Paltrow was going through her divorce, she called it a conscious uncoupling. Is this the US and Israel's conscious uncoupling? Is this Trump's last hurrah? We'll support you in this massive war, but from here on in, you guys need to deal with this on your own. The US is not coming to help.
Yes, we will have to deal with it on our own. The United States, if it doesn't completely collapse as an international power, will not prevent Israel from doing so. It will perhaps curtail Israel. It will perhaps limit Israel. But I don't think when it comes to crucial issues, remember, had we listened to the United States, not only had we listened to Europe, Saddam Hussein would have had nuclear weapons. I mean, the United States was against our action in Iraq, and let alone the Europeans. But the Europeans don't count. They're not even a player. This is too high stakes for the Europeans to even participate. They can try to undermine Israel as they have, and I'm afraid they will, but they're not a major player. But even the United States was against what Israel did, and a friendly president to Israel in Washington, Ronald Reagan, applied sanctions on Israel, including military sanctions, after we have attacked the Iranian reactor. And I think anybody in the human race should be grateful that the likes of Saddam Hussein and Assad don't have nuclear weapons, thanks to the fact that the Israelis did not do what the Europeans and to some extent the Americans wanted to do. So we will have limited freedom of action. Our freedom of action was always limited, but I think that in terms of the regional balance of power, in spite of the major mistake that Donald Trump committed, Israel is now in a much better situation than it was on October 7th, not least because the Israelis understand we can't wait for things and to buy tranquility by not responding to radicals. We should and will be preemptive, and now that we don't have the kind of American backing we had until now, I think we must be tougher when it comes to signaling the radicals in the region that we will break them even if it costs us. Look, Israel is today the only country in Western civilization that is willing to fight, whose people are willing to fight when crucial, vital interests are at stake. You can say that also the Ukrainians, but they're not, strictly speaking, part of the open Western society. They're a very different society. I hope they will be in the future an integral part of it. But the only country whose people are willing to fight are the Israelis. The Europeans are not willing to fight. They say so very openly. Germany can spend 100 billion euros on the military, but they can't bring in immigrants to man the tanks. So the Europeans are weak and incapable in the near future to become significant. And the United States just proved by completely rejecting what Trump did until now, and now Trump capitulating to this trend in American public opinion, that they're not willing to fight, in spite of the fact that it has implications, enormous implications on the world order. So the Israelis don't have a choice, because if we don't fight, we won't exist. With Israel, it's very immediate. The Europeans believe that in the final analysis, the Americans will fight for them, or that fights will not be necessary because they will live in their la-la land. Americans are saying we are not willing to fight even when very important issues are at stake, because I don't like Donald Trump or because I believe in isolationism. Israelis are still willing to fight. We demonstrated it in the last 2.5 years. And I think that our very willingness to fight is what keeps us alive in this violent and unstable region.
Looking at those regional alliances and balances of power then, I mean, it's not just Israel that the Americans are abandoning here. It's also the Gulf states. It's also the Lebanese, the non-Hezbollah Lebanese. It's also the Iranian population who wish to get rid of that tyrannical theocratic regime. But all of that has implications.
Professor, in the name of the majority of the Lebanese people, I confirm to you, we are with Israel in death and in life. We must fight with you against all these terrorists. God bless Israel, our great Israel. Continue.
Because while what you said about Israel is true and the Israeli population, the rest of the region have to make their calculations now. And in effect, this somewhat bolsters the Islamic Republic, doesn't it? When you think about the Gulf states who have been attacked during this conflict as a sort of proxy of America. America's not coming for them either. So what will the effect be, do you think, on the regional alliances?
Hello, my name is Adam Ferrari, the Chief Executive Officer of Phoenix Energy. I look forward to you joining us at our next investor webinar, where you can drill deeper into our 9 to 13.
I hope very much that the Emiratis will not be frightened by this American move to the point where they will capitulate to Iran, as many other countries in this region do, or even if they don't directly capitulate, at least they're not willing in any way to stand up to the Iranians. Yes, it has very bad regional implications. Actually, I don't see anything positive about it in the regional context. And also, when it comes to the broader question of will the United States stand in the way of Iran getting again very strong when it comes to its ballistic missiles and even proceeding in the nuclear path, so that it can deter, so that it can frighten the other Arab countries in the region. So actually the overall Iranian project of hegemonizing the Middle East in general, that was set back dramatically, almost broken with the help of the Americans, can now be reconstructed. Again, it is not as bad in the near future as it was on the eve of October 7th. But if in the next few years the Iranian regime is allowed to recuperate economically and then invest everything they have economically in these ballistic missiles and a nuclear project and buying support in the region and financing on a very high level Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis and others, then the project of Iran of hegemonizing the Middle East can be reconstituted. And I'm afraid that an alternative president, if it comes from the Democratic Party in the United States as it looks today, can even make things worse. I mean, if we had Kamala Harris, God forbid, as the president of the United States, we wouldn't even have a chance to undermine this Iranian project as we did with the help of the United States, or at least the willingness of the United States to let Israel do what the Israelis can do. So the question of what will happen in the next few years is crucial. And again, I wouldn't rule out the possibility of Trump coming to his senses. We have seen a very dramatic negative change. I would not rule out the possibility of a positive change, in spite of the fact that the damages of the negative change will be with us for a long time.
So in a sense, though, we're clutching at straws here.
Professor Jonathan, you are more young than me. Remember this from me, I'm old man. They want the Gulf, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Bahrain, United Arab Emirates, and Oman. They want the terrorist regime of Iran, if it's not broke down, that they want, by their hypocrisy, destroy and make civil war in all the Gulf. Second, the Lebanese, they want to cry too. And remember this from me too. For that, the majority of the people in Syria and Lebanon stand up, wake up, show up, speak up. Let to declare we are with Israel 100%. Professor Jonathan, the only way for the Gulf is to make now, not waiting for tomorrow, allies, economic and military with Israel. They can save themselves. It's my experience. I'm from the area. I know each little dust of the area. I know it very well. I spend my age when I analyze and I listen and I meet the people of the area. Arab of the Gulf, wake you up. You sleep. Thank you, Professor. Continue, please. All the world listen to you now.
Because we're saying, well, it could be worse. It could have been Kamala Harris, or it could get worse. It could be a Democrat president in the future, or J.D. Vance instead of Rubio, or it could get better because Trump's so unpredictable, he might change his mind radically in the opposite direction. But these are all quite desperate ways of dressing up what is a massive disaster, a massive failure. Yeah, and I wonder if we can then think about Israel alone in that sense. What is Israel's capability looking forward to an Iran that will undoubtedly, as soon as it can, strike Israel again, because it's basically been given this kind of free pass in that respect, either directly or through the proxies? What should Israel now be focusing on in the current situation, without the desperate hope that, well, maybe Trump will wake up on the other side of his bed after his birthday?
Three things. First of all, in Lebanon, we should continue to be very aggressive in terms of prevention. In other words, to continue our very successful attempt to destroy the infrastructure of Hezbollah in Lebanon, not being deterred by an Iranian response to it. And I think that if the Iranians respond in a way that is very serious, then Israel can again expose the Iranian vulnerability. Remember, Israel did not hit the Iranians where it hurts the most because the Americans were on our side, and they told us, why should you do that in this radical way when we can achieve it in a more systematic way? But now, if the Americans won't prevent us, and I don't think they will, because again, beyond a certain point, pushing a country like Israel to a point where it cannot defend itself is dangerous. Israelis can be very careful when there are better ways to achieve the vital national interests. But when the vital national interests are being threatened, I don't think the United States and Trump will go as far as to break Israel. And again, the most vulnerable parts of Iran we did not attack because the Americans didn't want them to be attacked because of the implications on the United States and on the world economy. But if Israel is threatened in a way that can have implications, that can have existential implications, Israel will do what it needs to do. And I think that in Lebanon, Israel will continue. Israel will not withdraw from Lebanon now. I don't think that it's an option. By the way, any government that will withdraw from Lebanon now will lose the support of the Israeli people. And I don't think even after the elections, any government will be able to do that in this position. Concerning the government...
Professor, I confirm to you, I represent the majority of the Lebanese people are with Israel 100%. All these terrorists are against Israel only. And they put the people in the power, from Joseph on to Michel on, all their family, to Sleiman Frangi, all these agents for them. God bless Israel. Continue, Professor. Continue, please.
Gaza Strip. We should have known. I mean, I knew, and everybody who understands the region knew, that you cannot eliminate the Muslim Brotherhood or Hamas. That's the same thing. This is what the Gaza Strip has been and will be. But then more that today, 35,000 terrorists less in the Gaza Strip because we killed them. Okay, we did in the tens of thousands. Israel is now in control of portions of the Gaza Strip. Hamas will not disarm. This has never been a realistic possibility. Hezbollah will not disarm. This has never been a realistic, with or without the United States. This is not an option. The whole idea of Middle East peace, now we've achieved something that for 3,000 years we could not be achieved. This was ridiculous to begin with. The Riviera in Gaza was ridiculous to begin with. So we come back to what we always had, barbarians on our border, and the only way to deal with these barbarians is to kill them. We've done it for 100 years. We can do it for the next 100 years. The question is not if we can do it or not, but can we continue to do it even when we have in the United States an unfriendly president? I don't think that this unfriendly president, the unfriendly way he acts now, is even close to what we would have had with the Democrats.
Professor, I want to say that you listen to me. If King Salman bin Abdul Aziz and his children don't listen to me, they want to destroy Saudi Arabia. They want to destroy Kuwait. They want to destroy United Arab Emirates. Listen to me, the Gulf of the people you are in power. Don't let them destroy your country. They want to destroy them. Don't believe Iran and their militia presided by Hezbollah and all this coward agent in Lebanon for Hezbollah and Nabih Berri. Don't trust them all. Professor, we must to continue kill them in Lebanon. We must. If not, they want to kill us. It's clear. It's clear. Professor, continue. Thank you very much.
Democrats or can have with the Democrats. So Israel needs to be much tougher to realize that the only way you can deal with the barbarians on our borders, with Hamas in Gaza, with Hezbollah in Lebanon, is to continue to hit them. And they are much weaker today than they used to be. And the situation where Israel is unprepared for war, as we were on the 7th of October, is not going to come back soon. And I think Israelis will have less illusions now that we've seen what even a friendly president in the United States can do.
Isn't the problem, though, that in the past, when the US has been, let's say, stopping Israel from doing what it needs to do, Benjamin Netanyahu in particular has always had the option of going to the US and appealing to his base, the Republicans there. But now we're looking at a Republican president who has basically withdrawn that fulsome support. And Bibi or any other leader of Israel has nowhere to go in America to appeal to the other side. The other side, as you've said, is much worse. So in that case, is Israel genuinely able, should Donald Trump even be less bad than the Democrats, but still saying to Israel, you're an effing this, you're an effing that, don't do this, it wasn't a bad missile, it didn't hurt anyone, you must ignore it. All these sorts of signals coming from Donald Trump over recent days and weeks, are catastrophic in the equation that Israel knows it's in, which is that if you do not react to even so-called non-effective missiles launched on people's homes, that is not the end of the story. You must react more harshly in response. But if Donald Trump is stopping them, that means Israel has lost the support even of the Republicans. And to replace him, we have a possibility in Vance of someone who's even worse. So what can Israel genuinely do in that scenario in terms of carrying on, even with the spirit of the nation behind it? Can it do that without the US?
Yes, it will be much more difficult, but it can be done. You're right. We have a problem in the domestic scene in the United States, certainly on the Democratic side, but also in the on the Republican side. But you see, Israel that had to deal with unfriendly or hostile American presidents, starting with Eisenhower, then Kennedy, Jimmy Carter, and then Barack Obama. We managed to do it when we were much weaker than we are today. Now, it's true that part of the strength that Israel demonstrated was a product of American support. But again, I don't believe that Donald Trump will be as irresponsible and willing to do something as dangerous as trying to undermine Israel's ability to deal with its radical elements in the Middle East. I don't think it will go that far, but from an Israeli point of view, the situation is certainly more complex than before. Israel is dramatically stronger than before. Its radical elements are physically weaker than before, dramatically weaker than before, but they are encouraged in terms of their spirit. Donald Trump built up the spirit of Hamas, of Hezbollah, of the Iranians, of the Houthis, and of the radical public opinion that we have in the Arab states, even those who have signed a peace treaty with Israel. We have a major problem. We don't have a choice but to face them, and not to face them by demonstrating appeasement of the kind that Donald Trump demonstrated vis-a-vis Iran.
What can we expect then from the Iranian regime now then? Because, you know, after this, there's already still difference between what both sides are saying is agreed and what they're calling for. They say they want this $12 billion released fully. They want full withdrawal, all of those things. I mean, there is the possibility that this is yet more bluffing from Trump. But the longer he goes on bluffing or stalling for time, you know, another 60 days of negotiation. And if they don't do what I say, well, we're back to war. But that doesn't really work, does it? Because the momentum works both ways. The longer that you are not engaging militarily, the longer the Iranians are able to rebuild, re-strengthen, make more ballistic missiles, get more sources of funds. What are they going to plan to do during the next week and during the next 60 days?
They will do what they've already done, what they've always done. And the question is, will the United States realize that this is not working? It seems at the moment that he is so committed to appeasement, so committed to do the worst possible thing from an American point of view, that we will not see a major change in the next 60 days. But I don't know. I simply don't know how he will respond. We must start on the assumptions that he will continue to capitulate. We don't know the details of the agreement, but you see, when he accepted the terms of reference to these negotiations that already produced this understanding, he was defeated before he even started negotiating. Because what the Iranians said, we will not negotiate the nuclear things, certainly not the ballistic missiles and the support for the proxies, but we will only discuss Hormuz. So once he accepted their terms, he capitulated. He capitulated long before he agreed to this specific set of understandings. So I hope he will realize how bad this capitulation is and how the Iranians are celebrating their victory. And perhaps the fact that they're celebrating the victory will make it more difficult for him to continue to capitulate. The one hope I have is his ego, because when he realizes that everybody knows that he capitulated, he will perhaps stop capitulating or will capitulate slower in a way that will allow Israel to secure the most important issues for Israel's security.
You've been heating your home with oil for years. Now there's a better way. Jetson upgrades your HVAC system in a single day.
So I think the last time you and I spoke, it was offline, just on the phone. And you said something then, which is that Trump has a real sense of who is a loser and who is a winner. And out of this, I don't think there's anyone who thinks Trump is a winner. America has won nothing here. It's getting a deal which seems to be JCPOA light, but with Hormuz thrown in, which wasn't an issue, with a rush towards nuclear weapons capability by the Iranians as soon as they think they can in a covert way, with no limitation on ballistic missile building and collection, with no limitation of the proxies. Do you think that there is something going on underneath this that maybe you and I can't see, that Trump doesn't feel he's a loser? How is it possible that a man who's built his entire career on such black and white terms, winners, losers, strong, weak, good deal, bad deal, has got this so wrong? How is it possible?
Well, we've already seen that he has an unlimited capability of presenting something that is not even anchored in reality. So this was always the shortcoming. What we've seen so far, this is the interesting thing, until March, we have seen a person whose instincts led him in the right direction, and now it's completely reversed. And it could be reversed again. I don't see a way that in the long run he can tell himself that he won anything. And the problem is that in Europe you had it for decades, and in America it also is probably dominant now, the perception that America cannot win. That it's not the question of did it win in this war or not, but that it cannot win. And this is exactly the challenge that Israel is facing. In other words, the assumptions that barbarians must win because the good guys are not willing to fight. This is what brought about the Second World War, when people in Britain, after the experience of the First World War, said, we will not fight for king and country. The result was emboldening Hitler to do the war. Anything that sends the signal, civilized people are not willing to fight, is the worst possible message to barbarians. You can take the original Si vis pacem para bellum, he wants peace, prepare for war. What we have now is Si vis bellum para pacem, he who wants war, prepare for peace.
The West, much of Europe, the US even, we see now, thinks that it is...
Professor Jonathan, would you please, I repeat, you are more young than me, remember. Who want to suffer by all the terrorist way to do? The G7 country and all Europe. They want to do, they have a lot of people who their education to fight the West, to fight exactly G7 country. You want to see that it is coming if we don't continue to beat all these terrorist barbaries. If put the regime of Iran down, anything will happen, no problem. And in Hezbollah's in the Jewish land, or the qu'on appelle Sykes-Picot land, when it is a Jewish land, there is no south of Lebanon. They are Sykes-Picot land. We must to fight them. And who want to cry forever? Lebanese people who they are innocent, and Syrian people who they are innocent. They kill 2 million children, women, young girl, men, father, mother. They massacred the Syrian people by 2 million people massacred by the barbarists of Hezbollah. Would you please, Professor, remember this from me? So continue, please.
Uncivilized to go to war. And there is certainly something barbaric about war, something that feels very uncivilized to populations who haven't had to fight within living memory personally or on their doorsteps like Israel has. So Israel seems to represent this combination of civility, civilization, because the place is civilized and advanced and progressive and free, but also with the ability to fight very fiercely in order to protect exactly that. And that seems to be what the West has lost. You said that Trump had good instincts at the beginning of this, and I tended to agree with that. I kept saying he had this strategic vision, he had these strategic instincts. I'm not sure now if we were wrong or if we were right, and he just got bored, if he's some sort of ADHD era president. And is that how the world works now? Is it even worse than the 4-year cycle of democracy that, even within those 4-year cycles, we're now...
Professor Jonathan, the two who want to suffer a lot, G7 country, Gulf Cooperation Council. If you want to make the same mistake, the G7 country vis-a-vis of the terrorist regime of Iran and the barbaries of them and the militia presided by Hezbollah, the same, the Arab Gulf Cooperation Council, they want to suffer a lot more than everybody can believe. It's my experience in this area. Continue, Professor, please.
Doomed to have leaders who just get fed up because they want a 80th birthday party unblemished by continued negotiation or war or whatever it might be. I mean, how can we get through this without leaders with longer term strategic vision?
Look, this is today the fundamental question of Western civilization in general. We are at a crisis in a very broad sense of the term, not only in terms of the willingness to go to war, but also in the quality of our democracy. I don't think that we can overlook the fact that the most important democracy in the world presented us in the last elections with the choice between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. I mean, we are in such a bad situation in our democracy, where by taking democracy too far, we ruined it. We took transparency so far that people no longer discuss the question of what is good. They discuss the question of what looks good. They no longer speak to the subject, they speak to the protocol. We are in a situation where in all Western democracies, you don't have a single outstanding leader. If today people like Churchill or FDR or Ben-Gurion or even de Gaulle would run for office, they wouldn't even, be the candidate in the final analysis. We see today that all democracies, look what is happening in Britain, in Germany, in the United States, in Israel. Look how the political system is malfunctioning in all democracies. Look what is happening with labor parties in Australia, in Canada, in Britain. Look how the willingness to capitulate has taken over, not only on issues like the Middle East.
Sorry, Professor, that I came. As a Lebanese, look, the democracy in Lebanon, what's happened to? We are in the group, Nazis control the country. Look them. Sorry if I compare Lebanon with the big country in the world, but through you, I can say thank you.
But even the ability to build a formidable army, you cannot get people, not only in Europe, the problem is universal. And here is one interesting point that I don't think people have noticed, and even Israelis did not fully understand. Israel is challenging the entire zeitgeist that has developed in democratic countries after the collapse of the Soviet Union. And what actually almost everybody around the world is saying, you can't fight, you will be defeated. If you have the determination of the barbarians, you can't stop them, and certainly you cannot beat them to a level that they will have to stop, because we can't do to them something that is unacceptable to them, so that they stop doing to us what we cannot live with. And the Israelis are basically saying, yes, we can, and what we do is something even worse. We succeed. So the assumption is, if you're willing to fight, and you used to belong to the civilized world, but you're willing to fight, and you're willing to do what you need to do, à la guerre comme à la guerre, and if you succeeded, you must be Nazis. Because even if, only if you do what is illegitimate, you can get your objectives. So you're illegitimate. When this comes together with anti-Semitism, I think the hostility vis-a-vis Israel in Western public opinion does not originate with anti-Semitism. It originates with the resentment of the willingness of Israelis to fight, which reminds the rest of the Western civilization how unwilling they are to fight for the vital interest for the defense of their countries. And then when they resent Israel for doing what they are not willing to do, then they turn to the arsenal of anti-Semitism that is already available, and you pick from this arsenal specifically the blood libel. Jews kill babies. So when you look today how the New York Times legitimizes it, and how from the New York Times to the South, this is what you get in mainstream media around the world, you can understand the connection between the willingness to fight and the very bad position of Israel in Western public opinion. This is the bad news. The good news is that in Israel, the radical left, the progressivism, committed electoral suicide. We are having elections now and they're not even represented in the Knesset. So, do we have a problem of the right in Israel? Yes, we have about 10% fascists in Israel. Germany has 30%. Sweden has 20%. You have it in Western countries on a major scale without an existential war. But most of the Israeli public is, on the one hand, willing to act like Sparta in war vis-a-vis the enemies, and to act like Athens in peace inside and towards our friends. And by the way, I don't mean the historic Athens. The historic Athens was not something that you should long for, but the image of Athens. So the combination of being a civilized society, a democratic society that is willing to fight when necessary, this combination exists in Israel more than in any other country in the world.
Correct.
And this resentment of Israel that turned into resentment of Jews and has now, I think, terminated Jewish life in Europe. I think it's over. Not the life of Jews, but Jewish life in Europe. And when you look at the American Jewish community and anti-Semitism in America, I think in one generation it will be over in the United States. So in Israel, you have the only country with the combination of maintaining an open society in the best sense of the term, not without problems, but in the best sense of the term, and the willingness to fight for vital national interest. Because for Israel, the danger is immediate. For the United States, it is not immediate, and the Europeans deny that there is a danger at all. So here, living in Israel is something that I couldn't today be a part in any other society, not only because I'm a Jew and this is the Jewish national home, but also because this combination of being open and pluralistic and at the same time willing to fight to maintain this way of life, the only place that I can find it is in Israel.
It might sound strange, but Vicks is 3 times stronger than the blue pill and can make any man hard as a rock. Pay attention, grab a pen, and write this down, because this homemade trick will make you so hard.
Well, look, I mean, I think you've expressed that very.
Professor, you are welcome. Is your land, and we are part of this land. We want to live together in the Commonwealth, the great Israel, and we want to fight anyone who look to us. This all barbaries, presented by the regime of Assad of Iran, of Hezbollah in Lebanon, by all this cower to be in a post and to profit from money. We want to destroy them all. We want to live in a peace president by our great Israel. I will repeat to the Gulf Council Corporation, listen to me. Not tomorrow, I repeat, and I want to repeat. I know more than you. And I'm proud of myself that I know, and I have this experience. Sign agreement, military and economic, with Israel. The area will be, if not this barbary, they want to destroy your countries. You don't want to listen, it's up to you.
Well, and often when you will say that, or even if I will say something along those lines about the spirit of Israel, but also its boldness in defending something not to be Sparta, but in order to protect something, quite the opposite of barbarity and fierceness, people will say, well, that's because you're Israeli, or they'll say to me, that's because you're a Jew. But in truth, I think what we're struggling with here more broadly, philosophically, is that actually you're saying the world needs to learn from that country, from Israel, regardless of Jews. Forget Jews in this equation. Zionism, which has become a dirty word, it's become a slur more and more. It's actually representing exactly what you've just said, which is the power and strength and determination to protect a national identity which is strong and free and liberal, but very clear and defined in who and what it is. And that's something which appears to have been lost across Europe. It's being lost across parts of the West. So a nice, simple question maybe to try and tie things up.
Let me perhaps respond to that before you come.
Well, yeah,
question.
Sure.
You see, if you look at it in historic perspective, those who have learned from us, not necessarily loved us. Go back thousands of years and ask yourself if those who learned from us and came from us ended up saying, well, since we've learned from them, let's like them and respect them. No, they said the extreme opposite. But you know, being hated is only difficult in the first few thousands of years. Then you get simply used to it.
Well, that's the depressing answer to what I was about to ask you. I suppose what
I don't know. We're still here.
Yeah.
So, haven't seen the Romans recently.
that's true. I guess so. What I was going to ask, but maybe you've answered it with that, is how can Israel turn it around, not for its own sake, but I mean for the world's sake? Because I think part of the spirit of what you've described, it's not let the world burn as long as there's the villa in the jungle, because that doesn't work. The answer is that Israel wants the world to realize that it's not a savage nation.
We will not succeed with most of the world. Because you see, there are parts of the world which are irrelevant to us and we are irrelevant to them culturally. This is most of the world. And Western civilization doesn't want to listen. Not in Europe and unfortunately much less in the United States than ever before. So we are, facing a tough time. There is a proverb in Yiddish, God gives problems and God gives shoulders. Okay? And we have a lot of problems and we have very big shoulders. We have much bigger shoulders than even Israelis realize. And they're put to the test. And I'm very optimistic. I think I've already mentioned to you the difference between a dumb optimist and a smart optimist. A dumb optimist says things will get better. A smart optimist says things will get worse, but we will get stronger faster than things get worse. So in terms of our immediate enemies, we will be able to maintain our position because we are strong enough. And when I say strong, I don't mean only militarily. I mean also economically and socially. The Israeli society, in spite of this government, has shown enormous resilience, unbelievable resilience. And the Israeli society is strong, the Israeli economy is strong, the innovation in Israel is very strong. The willingness of Israelis to do what is necessary to defend themselves is strong. And we are facing tough times, and we have faced much, much, much tougher times before.
Correct.
And we managed to deal with it, and I think we'll manage to deal with the present problem.
In the coming days, more than the sweep of history, what are we looking out at? We're looking to see how the Iranians break this, how the US stands up to that or changes its mind according to whatever Trump feels that morning, how Israel continues or doesn't in Lebanon, in Gaza.
Our country, America, I confirm to you, we want to wake up vis-a-vis of the regime of Iran. The terrorist regime of Iran, he sell product, liar, betrayal, hypocrisy. Everybody know them. They cannot success. We know them 100% how they do. The problem they find each place some coward love to be in the public office, and they give them the power and they give them money, profit from money. It's only way.
Its presence in Syria. Just map out the next, let's say, 7 days to 14 days, as far as you see for the critical things.
No, I don't think that making predictions for a few days makes any sense, because if you're right, you're usually lucky.
No, I don't mean predictions. I mean, what should we be looking out for rather than what will happen?
We should hope that the Iranians will overplay their hand. We should hope that the fact that Trump capitulated will become clear to practically everybody, and we should hope that this will impact his actions when he realizes that he is rightly perceived as having capitulated.
Well, on that note, I guess we'll leave it for now. But thanks for jumping
Thank
on
you.
short notice
Thank
to
you,
talk with me
Professor.
and to sort of explain these things. Your views are always enlightening, often amusing, less joking.
Yes, Professor. We are with Israel and we must to fight. We, Lebanese, we want to fight with Israel. We ask, I repeat and I repeat, wake you up 100% what I mean. Gulf Council Corporation. You don't know their hypocrisy. I know their hypocrisy more than you. I will tell you the truth. The regime of Iran must to be broke. Another people has to take the power. We don't want to help. You want to see the hell. Thank you. Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Israel, our leaders, our great Israel. The only solution for all of us, it's from the peace with Israel and the cooperation with Israel. Thank you.